Now we'll come to the immunology. Immunology, the problem what we face is hardly we may be doing blood grouping or vital test or syphilis, that is kit based one, where we'll be getting a positive control also in the kit itself. So the teachers will be getting the, whenever there is a fund for the college, some kits will be purchased. And unfortunately, most of the this antigen antibody bodies should be preserved at minus 20 degrees Celsius. So they don't, most of the colleges don't have these facilities, so they don't preserve. And whenever the immunology comes, just they will conclude with blood grouping or some at the most vital test, even not just qualitative kind of thing. So at many places, even PG and PG level also, this is almost the same problem we are facing. Actually, we can prepare, we need not to purchase any kits. We can prepare our own reagents, antigens, antibodies, all the things required, immunodiffusions, everything we can do in our lab if we can plan properly. I think today's sessions will help you a lot to do the experiments without kits. Like a basic something, if you want to do some basic thing, if you are purchasing, there is no mistake in it. But majority of the experiments like octarlone is there, immunodiffusions are there, and these kind of thing you can plan in your own lab. You can isolate, see agglutation reactions you can do, just blood grouping is there. And even without kit also you can do blood grouping. And precipitation reactions, see there is a there's a TT, tetanus toxide, many of our students must have taken. So the antibodies will develop in their bodies, will take out the blood and will take out the serum which carries the antibodies. And TT, whatever the injection is there, tetanus toxide, it serves as a antigen. So we are having antigen and antibody in our hand, so that we can do the precipitation reaction. Antigen, this TT antigen antibodies are excellent example for your precipitation reaction. All your immunoglobulin, this immunodiffusion experiments, radial diffusion and octarlone and radial rocket immunoassay, all those things you can do with your just TT antigen antibody things. And even if you don't have the persons with vaccinated TT, I think you will be getting, or otherwise before starting the semester, if you are giving vaccinating a person within a 20 days, you will get good titer of TT antibodies. Otherwise, from see on RBCs, you are having glycoprotein antigens. There is A B antigens. So you can isolate. Even there are protocols you can isolate. Just simple. You take the RBC. In today's presentation, I will be explaining how to purify the RBC. And that RBC, if you are treating with TNE SDS, TNE, there's a buffer tris NaCl EDTA with SDS, 1% SDS, then glycoprotein component, the upper glycoprotein component will be coming out. So that you do the purification, do centrifugation, and so you will be getting the antigen in the supernatant. And that antigen you can use for the precipitation reaction and flocculation reaction, hemolysis reaction. Very rare. I think only great research centers will be doing this hemolysis test. You can do simple. You purify the RBC and you do with the endotoxins. LAL test. You must have heard. Microbiologists must be aware about LAL test, where we'll be doing that. We'll be measuring the endotoxin presence in water. So you take the E. coli, any B12 or any kind of E. coli, you take it and you lyse the cell wall. Just you can do TNE-SDS with glass beads, you rupture and do the centrifugation. So lipopolysaccharides will be coming in the supernatant. Lipopolysaccharides are nothing but there's endotoxins. So these endotoxins are very efficient in hemolysis. You take the blood, purified, washed RBC cells, and you add this RBCs, these endotoxins to it, and you will be getting beautiful hemolysis. You can demonstrate the hemolysis activity. And even if you have anyhow streptokinase or streptococci bacteria, if you are having, you can demonstrate hemolysis activity. So without kits, you can perform your activities, but you should have an intention. And I hope that the current today's sessions will help you. See, like yesterday's, in maybe blood grouping, maybe you may appear it is a simple, but some precautions if you can take, or some key points if you can remember, you will be the master over the subject, and you can actually conquer the aspects. So I'll start with a very very basic topic, blood grouping. Yeah, blood grouping, you know, it is a one type of hemagglutination reaction. Here, the antigens are there over the surface of RBC. That is a glycoprotein. Sugar moiety is attached to the protein, and the antibodies in a person, in the person of A blood group, that is a surface antigen is A, and anti B antibodies are there in the serum. You know the basic things. So here, what we'll be doing, we'll be taking the monoclonal antibodies against A and B, whereas RH is a soluble protein in serum or plasma liquid portion. So we'll be taking antigen, there is a soluble antigen, and antibody will be here anti-RH or anti-D will be taking. So first you see the procedure what we'll do. This is a common thing, but see, normal mistake that what we'll do, we'll make a small prick and we'll try to put a drops of blood on the slide, but very often the blood quantity is not going to be enough. So better you take enough blood. See here, the blood is collected, EDTA blood is collected, and on a slide you will be putting 3 drops with a dropper or suspenser, or you can use micropipette. And now you add monoclonal antibodies, whatever the make you can use. Many are there, many manufacturers are available now. And these are different color coded to make it easy to understand. That's it. This is anti-A, this is anti-B, and anti-RH, that is anti-D. As they are monoclonal antibodies, chances of cross reactivity is almost nil, and you are supposed to mix it with sticks, and don't intermix the strips over here. Then there is a possibility of cross reactivity. Don't use the same site of the strip for mixing into other spot. So you use other stick, otherwise same stick at 2 other points. After mixing, you do a gentle racking. Gentle. It is a very clear in the first step itself. It got and these are the appearance of for different things. Okay, this is fine. The problem is very often when we are suppose blood donation camp is going on or something is going on, then you need to do several blood groupings, several things that you are supposed to. Always you wear the gloves and you do in an aseptic manner. Sometimes what happen, the precipitate, whatever the clump that you are getting, that is not clear clump, whatever, so it is doubtful. So what you will do in that case, you will give positive report or negative report in such cases. Whenever you are having a doubt, see, this precipitation will be enhanced at if you are giving low temperature or increasing the ionic strength. This the precipitation rate, agglutation rate will be enhanced if you are reducing the temperature or increasing the ionic strength. So if you are doing in the laboratory, you take ice cube and which is covered with a cloth. On that ice cube you can keep your slide, so immediately you will be able to see clear whether there is a agglutation or not. Otherwise, if you don't have an option of ice cube over there, Ice cube, you know, ice cube is not ice directly. It is a plastic bottle in which inside the ice will be there. Otherwise, you can use salt. There is a normal saline, little amount of normal saline, 1 drop of normal saline. If you can add, it will increase the ionic strength. This increased ionic strength will enhance. If at all there is a they're complementary, then the agglutation will be taking place and the clumps will be very clear. Take care of this point so that you will not be facing a false positives and or false negatives. Many of you, this is a very common thing for you. You must have done several times blood grouping, but how many of you have involved in cross matching? That is also a part of immunology work. It is not just, see, I'm A positive. I cannot give my A positive blood to all the A positive group people or all O positive people. It should be cross matched before transfusion. It will be cross matched. Let's see cross matching. That is a practical of immunology.
Today I am going to talk about major minor cross matching. Materials required for cross matching will be donor and recipient blood samples collected in EDTA and serum separation tube respectively, 0.9% normal saline and plain tubes without anticoagulant. You may also require a centrifuge, incubator, a microscope, clean glass slides, pipette tips, etc. Collect the samples and mark them respectively. Invert the test tube several times to check for clots. After checking, they are good to go for centrifugation. If the sample is submitted in serum separation tubes, then you need to centrifuge it for 4 minutes. While the centrifugation is going on, start marking the test tubes. Any sort of clean test tube can be used for RBC washing. Take 4 clean glass test tubes and start marking them as follows. Donor blood recipient serum as major, recipient blood donor serum as minor. Donor control will have donor blood and donor serum. Recipient control will have recipient blood and recipient serum respectively. Start separating plasma after centrifugation. Plasma can be separated and transferred into a plain test tubes. The packed cells in the lowermost bottom will be taken for erythrocyte washing. Start separating the serum from donor sample and transfer it to tubes that are named as minor and donor control respectively. Because both minor and donor control requires donor serum or plasma. Similarly, start transferring recipient serum into donor and recipient control tubes. After filling serum in all the test tubes, leave them aside. And let's start processing the RBCs. Here is where we require 0.9% normal saline. Take the tubes that are previously marked as donor RBC and recipient RBC separately. Take around 200 microliter of packed RBCs and transfer them to tubes separately. After transferring, add about 4.8 ml of 0.9% normal saline to the same test tubes. Invert the tube several times to mix the RBCs with normal saline properly. Once both the donor and recipient RBCs are mixed with normal saline, start with centrifugation. Centrifuge the samples for 1 minute. After centrifugation, discard the supernatant. Supernatant can be discarded either by decanting or pipetting out. Repeat RBC washing with normal saline 2 more times. After the third RBC washing, gently pipette out the supernatant from both the test tubes. and make final RBC suspension with normal saline. Invert the tube several times. Now they are ready for cross-matching. Take donor RBC, pipette out 200 microliter and add it to the major test tube. Add the same to the donor control. Similarly, pipette out 200 microliter of recipient blood and transfer it into minor test tube and recipient control tubes. After adding donor and recipient samples, it is time for incubation. Incubation time is around 37 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes or 30 minutes at room temperature. Here I am setting the timer for 15 minutes because I am incubating at 37 degrees Celsius. After incubation, take out our samples and centrifuge for 1 minute. After centrifugation, examine the supernatant for hemolysis. Start pipetting out the supernatant until you have very little supernatant left behind. Start mixing blood and plasma and keep a drop on examination slides. Look for gross agglutination. If you don't see any, then proceed with microscopic examination by adding a cover slip. And finally, this is how a compatible samples will look like. You can see individual RBCs that are not clumping with each other. This is how an incompatible sample will look like under microscope. If you see RBC clumping either in major or minor or in both, then they are not fit for transfusion. Agglutination can be differentiated from rouleau formation by adding a drop of normal saline. Rouleau formation will get disintegrated in normal saline, whereas agglutination will remain the same. Today I am going to talk about